But this is how you start. You have to map out the face a little bit. And this is a rough start, but it is a start. And all this external stuff, this mess that I'm making on the outside, all that's going to be taken away by a background. I had a mess on Patty's and just put a nice dark background and it disappeared. All right, now I'm going to start putting a little color on there. I'm not going to work on the eyes. I've got to see some color. I want to see if I can capture the color of her skin. Your skin actually isn't that olive. You don't get much sun, do you? No. I wish it was olive.
You can give me a tan.
Yeah, okay.
I used to be a sun worshiper.
Oh, were you? Till you got smart? Yeah, as a redhead, I just went to the dermatologist yesterday, and I'm good. Nope.
Good.
Nothing had to be burned off, cut off, or whatever. And I was warned as a redhead, watch out, Florida, bad. Well, you got a nice little beard on this side of your face.
I probably do. I need to get it waxed.
Well, we won't get that personal. We won't go there. I'm just going to mix, just to start off with, a little bit of cad orange and white. Just those two colors together make a decent skin, and then you go from there and put your other colors on. This is the way I do it. I don't know anybody else that does it this way. But it gets me started, and cad orange is just such a lovely color, and it accommodates other colors so nicely when you add them to it. Woo, that's very white, but it won't be white forever. I've got your head much too wide. I gotta skinny that down a little bit. When I'm home in my studio, I talk to myself like this too. Oh, ear too big, eye too crooked. But at least you get some kind of contrast. I have to start seeing contrast. One of the things I'd like to convey to you too is keep yourself excited. Keep yourself excited enough to finish the darn painting. If you think you have to do the background first and then do this and then do that, or if you're doing a landscape, you got to do the sky, you got to do you have to do it all in order. You don't. You have to do whatever you have to do to keep yourself engaged and excited over your painting. Otherwise, you're going to be like a million other artists with paintings under your unfinished paintings under your bed and in your closets, taking up all kinds of room. I have lots of them that, you know, before I learned how to trick myself into finishing the paintings. So break the rules. Artists are that type anyways. They like to break the rules and like to have fun. Right? You interview artists a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're a wild bunch. We get a little calmer when we get older, but mostly. Right, Judy? Yes. Yeah. Like to party. Okay. Oh, nice cheeks. Red. Don't be afraid. Just let it go. It'll all come out fine. All that funny looking pink here. All you need to do is add a little this phthalo green. Calms everything down. It's just unbelievable. Love that phthalo green. Watch how that calms that pink down. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Calm it right down. It's you know, when you start working with a new color that you're not used to or that you've heard bad things about, it's kind of exciting when you capture it and tame it so that it can do for you what you want. I'm going to try a little sap under the chin too. I mean under the lip. a little over here. Sap there, and mix a little phthalo right here for that shadow. And a little sap and phthalo on the side. Oh yeah, those shadows are going to be beautiful. It's all about making your painting really fun to look at. Now hopefully this painting will be not as tight as Patty's was very tight because I had to, with acrylic it's a lot of layering. It's, you can't move the paint around. I mean, there are extenders you can use to move the paint around, but I'm not as good with acrylic. I'm a little too impatient, I think. Tried the extenders, I couldn't make them do what I wanted, so. But now, see that green, how green that is? Watch what happens when I add a little, let me make that just a little greener because that shadow is pretty dark. This brush is too small. I need a bigger brush. I keep wanting to go to smaller brushes, and you really need bigger brushes when you're doing a big portrait like this. Now I'll add a teeny little cad red on top of that green. Red and green makes brown. Watch that beautiful, rich shadow. See that shadow coming now? Look at the difference. And if I add a little, oh, that was, actually that wasn't cad red. Yeah. If I add, that was actually the wrong red. That was crimson. But the cad red on top of the green makes a beautiful shadow. Now, if I used brown out of the tube and white, you'd get a pink. It's just not pretty. Now I'm getting some nice shadow here. And I could take this, if it's too dark, and bring it all the way over to the side of the face to get a better shadow. I love the way oil paint moves. You can just push it around, and it's exciting because it's unlike other paints. When you mix it with other colors, it does some surprising things that it doesn't do with watercolor. Now I'm anxious to see a little more. I just wanted to get some color on her face, but I'm anxious to see some lips and eyes, and it's already almost 20 up. I'm going to put her lips on there.
I'm not moving it.
Okay, now we have to figure out if it's like that. That's good, but I think you got to go not quite that much. All right, like that. That's good. Now, Tania, this is not going to look like you. The likeness comes late in the painting through a lot of tweaking. I might have to move your lips, your eyes, or your nose. Many of the portraits you see here, their eyes have been in different places on their faces. They just have to get moved. If you want to skip that painful thing, you can get yourself, you can go to Staples and have a photocopy made in the size you want, and get some graphite paper and pencil it in, and you got the most painful part of your painting done. And then you can go home and start painting. But I like to, I guess I'm a purist in some ways. I just like to get right into the canvas, get started right away. It just seems like closer to giving birth to the painting because I've done it all myself. The only thing I didn't do is make the paints and make the canvas. I don't know how the masters did it years ago with having to make their own paints, and you know, I don't know how they got the canvases or what, but.
What kind of red are you doing?
Well, I'm using a crimson and a cadmium red light. And she's got really, really red lips on this, but that won't stay like that forever. I'll give her a little more softness on her lips right now, just so you can see a little bit more from the audience. Of course, I forgot the light. I put the light on the wrong side of her mouth. It should be on this side, because my light is coming from 1 o'clock. That's why it's important to determine ahead of time where your light's coming from. Because if it's coming from 1 o'clock, you don't want it coming at her at 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to use a little alizarin on the top lip, just a little bit. Okay, and you're starting to get silly. I'm going to put a little red nose on her just to give her a little color. Right here. Oh, I don't have any paint on there. I got to put some of the orange paint on her nose. Now this is a very, very ugly stage. I can't emphasize that too much. But I'm going to get into painting her eyes pretty soon because I got to have the eyes looking at me. I can't have a painting with a face with just a bunch of paint thrown at it. Gotta see the eyes. But I like making sure I have at least some of the light in the right places. Even just some strokes of light where you see pure white. Sometimes you just need to do something like that to spur yourself on, get yourself excited. And if you find you're still not excited over the painting and you're home, go have a cup of coffee and then come back later. Because you really need enthusiasm. You need to be enthusiastic to do a painting. I do commissions, but sometimes I have a hard time getting my enthusiasm up because especially if it's a person I don't know or a dog I don't like, which that's happened. But it's starting to get a little bit of life, and I'm starting to get a little excited. I think I need to. Sometimes you have to clean your brush between, if you're going to start using brilliant colors. Now I'm using a little bit of yellow and orange here, just under her nose, just to get a little bit of shape. Right now her nose is just a blob. It's not really coming to life yet. But the colors are starting to make me feel that I'm accomplishing something. And I'm working my way over to her eye. I'm going to put a little bit of lavender over by her bottom lid. Pretty strong. I got to get rid of some of that. It's too strong. Oh, I'll just put some on the other eye. That's all. If you got too much paint and you want to match the other eye, just bring it over to the other eye. See, but that color is starting to excite me here. I like it. Now I'll put a little of this, let's try a little of this phthalo and see what that does. My newly discovered phthalo. Might be a little too dark, but let's see what happens. Oh, I love that color. That is a great shadow color.
Phthalo green.
Phthalo green, yeah. Really great phthalo. But I'm using too big of too small of a brush. Starting to get too tight. Yeah. I like the loose strokes. that you have to do with a big brush. Yeah, there we go. Yep. And then there's less blending. I hate when the model wants to see the painting and it's so awful in the beginning. But that's all right. That's all right. Well, I'm glad you do. Half the time I don't, and it just kind of comes together all of a sudden. I don't know what happens, like magic.
Just gotta keep going.
Yes, that's the thing. You have to keep going. You can't get discouraged. And if somebody in your household comes in and says, you know, you just didn't nail it, you just have to ignore them. Or divorce them, one.
That's why Michelangelo kept a sheet.
What?
Maybe that's why Michelangelo kept a sheet over everything, you know.
Well, you know, that's a good idea. He kept a sheet over everything. Yeah. I'll have to remember that. Okay. Now, when I do a portrait, as I start getting deeper in, I always look to see where the darkest darks and the lightest lights are. And with Tania, of course, it's her pupil. And she's got a dark area right here under the right eye. And her left eye is almost in darkness. But the darkest darks, of course, are here, especially at the bottom. And the corners of her lips, and just a little bit under her nose. You can almost see one little nostril. But that's where the denseness will come in. Once I'm farther along on this portrait and I get into more detail, that's where I'm going to put the darks. And they're not going to be black. They're going to be probably Prussian blue. Yeah. I'm going to start the eye now, just so we can get a little bit of eye looking at me. Maybe I'll just fix this nose just a little bit so that the shape is a little better. Come down with that nose a little bit. Oh, I'm going to have fun with this portrait at home. Oh, Kathleen, whenever you want to, you can take a picture of Tania for me. Forgot my camera at home.
Charlie's standing right where you are, right? She takes it? Or
Yeah, she'll come up and.
This is me directing.
I said I was going to do your eye, but I'm getting stuck on your nose. Just can't seem to. Maybe a little more green over here. That's what it needs. Stand right here where I was, Kathleen, okay?
Right here?
Yep. Over just a little farther towards me, I think. Yeah. There we go. That's good. Thank you.
And make sure it's not blurry.
That's all right.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you. It's good to have buddies. Okay, I'm going to do her eyes now. Got brown eyes, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, good. I could do the orange on the bottom. I love doing that. Okay, I'm just going to position her eyeballs. I might have this eye a little low. I think your eyeball is probably about there. I think I got to come up a little bit. Yep, got to come up with that eye just a little bit. See, this is why you have to step back all the time and make sure you have everything in the right place. And you kind of have to break things down into shapes of shadows, you know, the distance between the eyes. Like you don't need a ruler. You can just use your paintbrush and measure from the eye to the chin, and then sideways. I don't want to get my, and you could tell that way if the length of her face as opposed to the width. Now her eyeball is, that's pretty rough, but I think it's about right. I'll go with that. And if I have to move the eyeball, it's not like I'm a surgeon. You just move the paint around, that's all. But the eyes are so important. You really have to try to get the eye right. And it doesn't take much to start bringing the, just a few strokes on the eyes, and they start coming to life. I must have shook up here because she's got an eyeball with a feather on it. Okay.
False eyelashes. No, I don't have them.
All right. So they're basically her eye. And one thing about oils, you can't really rest on this like you can with acrylic and some watercolors. But this back scratcher is a good back scratcher, and it's also a good maul stick. So you could lean on it and then steady your hand. And it also has a nice little hook to hook onto your canvas. Okay. All right, now I'm going to start making these eyes look a little more realistic. Right now they look like an alien, but it won't forever. I'll try this brush. This one. I just want to get her top lid. And for the top lid, I'm going to have to use a little bit of chirp to loosen the paint up. And the eyes always call for a maul stick, because you really can't make it too impressionistic. Okay. You've got a little squinty here. Now these are not going to be realistic eyes by any means in the beginning. It takes a lot of tweaking. Most portrait artists take weeks. I have a friend who is from Texas, and that's what he does is portraits. And they usually fly him to wherever he's doing the portrait, and he has to stay at least 3 weeks. Of course, he gets about 30,000 a portrait. And I have one of his portraits. It's very famous now. He used to be my neighbor. Oh, cheap brush. Pardon? Yeah, I wish. No, his name is James Tennyson, and he's fabulous. But when I knew him, I didn't know how to do portraits. I wasn't even painting. Pardon? The one that I have? It's actually somebody from the Bible. He was a very religious guy. He was the son of missionaries. And he, for a good part of his life, he painted just religious subjects. And then he started doing portraits by commission. Now he's way up there. He's very famous. Now, these aren't her eyes by any means, but it's a start. And I want to get her the glow in her brown eyes. And, you know, that will not finish her eyes for me. There's plenty of work to be done on this portrait, of course. But I want to get her hair mapped in, so at least you'll be able to get a general idea of, oh, we're almost almost done. General idea of the composition. Right now I'm putting a little red on her eyes just to give them some color. And now I'm going to do the pupil. I'm going to take a little Prussian blue. Prussian blue makes kind of a deeper black than black. It gives it some depth. And if you could see this close up, you would see that that Prussian blue stands out like crazy. And if you're ever doing an animal with that has, you know, round or unusually shaped pupils, you could use Prussian blue and put a glaze of alizarin crimson over it. And it's like it comes to life somehow. I don't understand why, but I'm always experimenting with color and trying to tell my students to do that too. And when they do, sometimes they come upon the most exciting combinations of color. Now these eyeballs are starting to look like starting to look like eyes now. I'm just going to put a little bit of lavender shadow under her eyelid. Every little stroke makes a difference. That's what's so exciting about painting. Everything you do makes a difference. It makes it more and more real with every stroke. I'm taking a slightly smaller brush right now and taking a little Prussian blue and a little bit of raw umber just to give her lids a little bit more depth. And Prussian blue and raw umber, and just outlining her eyeball just a little. But if you could see these eyeballs close up, they've got wonderful depth to them. The shape of the eyes, that's no good. But the eyeballs themselves are exciting to me. In fact, I'm going to make a little bit more of a glow right here. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it needs. Whew. Okay, I'm going to map in her hair real quick, just so you can get an idea of, oh, this is a nice big brush. I'll use this. So you can get an idea of the composition. I'm going to use a little black and brown. Now her face is way too fat. Everything is correctable. Not in real life, in my painting. And I can narrow it down a little bit with her hair. And cut her head off a little over here. See, you can almost be like a surgeon. See, right like this, and bring her down that way. Cut off her chin a little, like that. This is a nice start, though. I'm not unhappy with this. Of course, I'm never unhappy when I see color coming on my canvas. It's the struggle later on when you have to get an exact likeness. It's not like a landscape. You know, you can put a tree wherever you want or a river wherever you want. You have to make it look like this person. And but when you nail it, nothing like it. Nothing like it. One of these days I'm going to go on a jaunt with a bunch of portrait painters and just have, I'm just saying that. I would like to. Now I'll hope that Kathleen's picture comes out right, because I have a lot of work to do here. A lot of work. But I think this is going to be a very nice portrait. Just put it right under your chin here. Oh, I love that color. Woo! Oh, beautiful color. Now, if I could make it look human, that would be good. I just, yeah.
Surreal.
Oh, look at that green. Ooh. Now take a big brush. Oh, that's a beautiful, isn't that a beautiful color? That'd make a nice scarf. But it's not a scarf, it's her shadow, so I got to do something with it. Oh, that's good. Little red. Oh, see? Nice shadow. It's turning into a shadow color. Yeah. That's okay. Oh, your chin isn't this big. Cut that down a little bit. Oop, cut it too much off. Now I got to put more on. Yeah, I got a lot of work to do on this, but I'm going to have a good time with it, I can tell. And I think I'm going to use phthalo as the background.
Good. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, good. That's going to play very nicely against her skin. Look at that. See how that phthalo just takes over? This is why people hate phthalo, because once you put it on something, it dominates it. You can hardly control it, but I've learned how to control it. So you just control it with a little orange. Watch. Calms it right down. Slows it right down. Now, this phthalo, I'll probably bring it out, and I'll have a lighter phthalo coming from here from 1 o'clock. In fact, I'll put a little phthalo in her hair, just to get some light. And it also ties the color in the whole portrait. Let's see, oh, I got your part going the wrong way. And, if I want to tone that down, all I need is a little alizarin. Alizarin will tone this down and make it look, oh, look at that alizarin, how that pops it out. Love that. It's a little light here, and it's catching the alizarin in a funny way, so I'm going to have to put some red in there. But see, don't be afraid of the color. It just gives it more life. Let's see if I can get a little more of that phthalo over here, just so I can get the shape of your hair. See, once you start putting a background in and try to shape your subject a little more. Yeah, your chin is a little more square than what I have here, and that's very easily correctable. But if Kathleen's picture doesn't come out right, I'm going to have to come and get a picture of you. All right.
No pressure, Kathleen.
Okay, let me just get the shape of your face a little bit better than this. I want to get your ear in there. Get a nice red ear. See, don't be afraid to just throw the color on and worry about getting the shapes later. You just push it around. And I think I got your ear too big. So I'll put a little phthalo over here. Cut you down. See what happens when you start putting the background in, though? Especially a color like phthalo green, it just bounces off every other color and looks gorgeous. And especially if you have a little darkness around it. Really looks nice. Now let's put a little bit more Let's put her neck in, just so we can see that shadow. Now this is very rough. I would shape this shadow much better and color it much better, of course. And I just want to get the color of her blouse. It's a blue. It's really blue. I'm mixing ultramarine blue and a little phthalo, I believe. I think that's, no, it's cobalt. Yeah, that's pretty blue. But it's a nice blue. It's going to look nice against the, I think I got your shoulder too big. See what happens? You get something too big, you just reduce it with the background. Okay, don't be afraid. Oh, these colors are going to be nice. It's really fun to paint with a big brush too. It gets you kind of out of your element. Okay, one more thing. Your lips kind of turn themselves down. All those little nuances have to be done later, but they make each model unique. There's all kinds of play that I'll have to do in the corner of the mouth there, both sides darker there, and you have a nice little Marilyn Monroe mole over there. And there's a lot more shaping with the eyes and the nose. But that's about all I'm going to do for now, folks, 10 after, but thank you. I would like to show you, for the benefit of my videographer too, the portraits that I've done so far. And I'm going to hold them up. Bob, you're going to direct me the way you want. This was Guido Costa. This was the first one. You want me to go over here, Bob? Like this? This is Guido Costa. Is he here? Yeah. Hey, Guido. Guido Costa without an ear, because I didn't finish him. When I do my portraits, I put this little note on it, and I put it on my kitchen counter. And when I walk by it for a few days, I either say, oh, man, I nailed that, or I say, oh, I got to move the ear, or the eye's too big, or the color's wrong. And I put this right in front of the portrait and write down whatever comments. And, you know, I asked my husband to do that, too. Like this? Okay. And my husband is a good critic. He can usually, he's not an artist, but he knows what's wrong with a portrait when I'm doing it. But this is, so there's the man, Guido Costa. You are difficult. No, you were easy. And he was a good model. Okay. All right, and the next one was charcoal. And this is Norwood Stanhope. Sorry, Bob. This is Norwood Stanhope. And Norwood, are you here? Oh, not very observant, sorry. Okay. And this is black and white charcoal. And I put him in a beret because he's a fabulous artist.
Okay.
Okay. And the third one was pastel. And this is Noah Lavender. He's the nephew of one of our members. You know Noah? Are you really?
Danielle is his mother. It's all coming together.
Oh my goodness, what a connection. Hey, we have a connection here. It's getting spooky.
Sorry to put that on.
Oh, well, that was interesting. But Noah was a 10-year-old boy who had a hard time sitting for a whole hour, but he was pretty good. He's so cute. And the next one was Guido Costa's wife, Kathy, which is right over here. This was watercolor. Kathy Costa. And I had a few problems with Kathy, but not with her, but with the painting.
Move over just a bit and look at me. Thank you.
I should have had them hold them up next to him. And the next one was Patty Goines, which this is at an angle, so you really can't see it good. And this is acrylic, and that's Patty right there. Patty, want to stand up? That's Patty. Yeah. And Patty presented some problems this weekend. I almost threw her out the window. But you have to stick with it, because I'd say the last 20 minutes to a half hour, she really came together, and I got excited over it, so it came out pretty good. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming, and you all have information. And our donation jar. Claire is holding up our donation jar. These demonstrations are free, but I hope you help us out with our scholarship fund.